Hello everyone, welcome. I am camped up at Crater Lake in the Maroon Bells Wilderness, and tomorrow I'll be traversing from Maroon Peak to North Maroon. As always, I want to give a disclaimer. Climbing here is inherently dangerous. Now obviously I don't know your skill level or experience. I can't make a risk assessment for you, but what I hope to do is, one, to help you navigate, and two, give you some video to help you make that risk assessment. Now for me, this is the last of the Great 14er traverses, and namely the reason for that is that it's the only one with a lot of red tape around it. A few things I'll say about that, and of course there's timestamps if you want to skip ahead to the fun stuff. You have a few options. One is that there's a parking lot at the trailhead, and if you book well enough in advance, you can just drive up, which would be the most convenient. It's mid-July now, and they're booked up until August, and I do everything last minute, so that was not an option for me. My original plan was to take the bus at 7 a.m., which would get me here maybe 7:30, and then the last bus going down would be 5, so that would be an 8.5 hour window. But at the last minute, a campsite opened up, dispersed spot around Maroon Zone. So I grabbed that. I was able to change my bus ticket pretty easily, and that allows me the freedom to start a lot earlier. Although theoretically, I mean, an 8.5 hour window is more than enough time to do the traverse if you're fast. Your chances with weather are a lot better if you start early. So I'm going to be looking between 4 and 4:30 start, so that when I'm on the south ridge of South Maroon Peak, I'll have enough light to get some video. So yeah, anyway, it's hard to get in here, especially if you're from outside of Colorado. I'd say the one positive about it is that you don't need a high clearance vehicle to get here. I simply parked down at a garage in Aspen, sat on a bus. So yeah, having said that, it was also will be the most expensive of all the traverses. It was $85 for 2 days and 1 night in a parking garage, and then I think $16 for a bus, and then another $16 to camp here. So one other thing about this traverse that's nice is that it's quite a short approach. I think it was not even 2 miles walking in here. It didn't even take a whole hour. So yeah, be able to get down the mountain and get out of here early tomorrow if all goes well. It is shortly before sunrise on the road up to Maroon Peak, up to the South Ridge. Thus far, it's of course steep in places, but the trail is quite easy to follow. Chance of rain in the afternoon, but as of right now, weather looks great. So just keep up a slow and steady pace. About 1.5 miles from Crater Lake, there's a turnoff to the right-hand side. Has a little cairn next to it. Even in the dark, it wasn't hard to find. Just over 13,000 feet, just a few minutes past sunrise, and we have our first views to the south, also very close to the ridge. South ridge of Maroon Peak. The summit block in view behind me. We'll be moving off to the left-hand side, or rather the west side of the ridge, and we'll be putting on my helmet soon. I am on a climber's path on a ledge on the left-hand side of the ridge, and it took me straight to the first little class 3 couloir. Thankfully, it was really hard to miss. I know we'll be going up this and then turning left and then up through another little chimney. Little chimney directly off to the left. Again, impossible to miss it. Other than that, just following cairns along the ridgeline. Still a little climber's path here. Just came around the bend and I'm in view of the 2 gullies. I think we're around 13.5 right here. Probably gonna try the right hand one. It looks a little bit less steep. Yeah, 2 gullies are easy enough to spot as long as you know what you're looking for. I'm standing on an edge with an obvious pathway leading from the right gully over to the left. And then from there, we up the left gully a short distance and then turn off to the left again. Coming out of the left-hand gully, again, there's a path on the left-hand side and some cairns to show the way. It goes without saying, but a ton of loose rock, and I've got some people beneath me, so really got to be careful. It was a few hundred feet of easy walking along a ledge, mostly level. And now I'm staring up at a large gully, so move up this and then look for a path off to the left. I walked the couloir quite a far distance, almost all the way up to the ridge, and to my left I can see a ledge and a lot of cairns on the ledge. So I'm gonna go that way. Immediately around the bend and a few cairns above me. So I'm gonna start moving up these ledges. It's just left and up right here. Following a little footpath, following some cairns, and not too far from the first summit. Class 3 scramble directly up to the ridgeline. Maybe you could keep it to class 2 if you chose a better path, but a lot of paths to choose from. From here I think I can see the summit, and if not I will soon. Just walking north directly on the ridgeline. Still have a good footpath to follow too. Maroon Peak summit. Glad that I got an early start because it did take a little longer than expected to get here. All in all, the route finding wasn't that bad. Same thing with Creststone Peak and Needle. Of course, I'd recommend go to 14ers.com, get as many screenshots as you can. But thus far, I haven't really needed them. Though it is without a doubt one of the harder 14ers, it's also quite popular and the trail is quite well established. I think from here I'm moving to the northeast corner of the summit and then cutting back to the left. We'll go down a series of ledges. Scrambling down the north face of Maroon Peak. Ton of loose rock, but easy enough to see the path. I was just a minute ago able to identify the couloir that I'm aiming for down in the notch. Yeah, a couple little ledges to scramble down. Easy class 4 at worst. As I was getting closer down to the notch, definitely better to stay toward the left on the west. There was one difficult looking section I was able to bypass pretty easy just by moving further left. I stayed on the ridge. I'm just above the notch at Belcourt Couloir. I think the 14ers.com directions had me going down the first couloir that I passed and then traverse around. I'm not certain about that. I am down into the notch, the Belcourt Couloir notch. To my left, there is a path going back to the couloir that was referenced on 14ers.com. So it probably would have been easier to go that way, but either way it's definitely possible. And just across the narrow couloir I can see a cairn up on the ledge. I'm going to traverse around and then look for the first pitch out of 3. From out of the couloir, it's a very short walk over to the first pitch, or first difficulty as they refer it. I'm looking up at a ledge on the left through a little chimney. I think that's my first target, and then from there figure out the rest of the route up to the main ridge. Yeah, on the ledge, through the first little gully on the ledge, and just a few steps to the left I can see another cairn above me. Will be another little scramble. Please do test your handholds on this one. Mostly good, but a few loose rocks. A little bit up and to the left from the top of the pitch, still following some cairns. I'm looking down at an alternate chimney route. Could have reached this one if I had kept traversing to the north. Following a path just to the left of the top of the ridge, and I think I see the first tower that I'm looking for. I was a little bit mistaken in my location. I thought I was going over the Spire now, but I just went around the Spire and I'm sitting at the face of the second pitch. I can see it by a couple of overhanging rocks above me. Real easy to recognize. I know there's an alternate to the right, but probably going to just stay to the left. Maybe a little bit more technical and a little bit less exposed. I'm on a ledge about midway up. I think the hard part's behind me. Mostly good handholds, but a few rocks that are loose, so be careful. On the second half I went to the right, and I think I've seen other people do it on the ledges further left, but to me this way seemed easiest. Topping out the second pitch, just about already at the third pitch. I'm staring at a cliff in front of me. I'll have to go off to the left and then look for one of 2 ways to get to the top. I'm standing in front of the right-hand chimney leading up. I know the one further left is supposedly less technical, but this one looks quite short, and from where I'm standing looks manageable, so I'll give this one a shot. Definitely shorter. Actually felt like a few trickier moves on this one, but you do have rock on 3 sides of you to hold on to. There was an alternate route to the left of this final little pitch, although that ledge was quite exposed, and in the end I think you'd still have to climb up anyway. But either way, I'm on a little bit of an exposed ledge. I think in another minute I'll be back on the proper ridge. One little short climbing pitch that I almost forgot about. Not as exposed as I thought, but rock quality is kind of crap. As always, be careful what you're holding on to. Yeah, fairly easy path around the right side of the Spire. Just a little bit of exposure. The worst part might be behind us, but can't let our guard down just yet. Past the spire and just around the bend, have a view of the west face of North Maroon Peak. Still on a little climber's trail, just gonna follow the cairns, pick the best path I can, but probably from here a lot of ways to go. I stayed further to the right, took a pretty direct route, definitely class 3. I think if I had gone further left, would have been a little bit less steep, but either way, a lot easier than what we've done already. North Maroon Summit. Great views of Snowmass and Capitol Peak here. Yeah, weather's still looking good. If I had taken the 7 a.m. bus, it would have been early afternoon already, and maybe would have not been so good. So yeah, definitely happy with the earlier start. One less thing I have to stress out about. Having done all 4 of the 14er traverses, I have to say this one it's the most technical. Like, it's short and it's intense. Though, yeah, I think most people rank Little Bear Blanca hardest, and yeah, I'd have to agree just because it's so long and the rock is so bad. But here, in spite of there being so much bad rock, it seemed like it was good everywhere you needed it to be good. Still have to navigate this descent. I haven't climbed this one yet, so I don't know this route. Reminds me a little bit of doing, I descended Cresto Needle last year without the ascent beforehand, and it was a little bit of a pain, so I'm expecting the same here. On a slightly unrelated note, I've never done a video on Diente to Mount Wilson, though it is by far the easiest of the traverses. Still, if there's anyone that wants to see it, just drop a comment. I'd be happy to do it again. Same thing with Capitol Peak behind me, or actually any of the 4th class 14ers. Just let me know what you want to see. Off to an okay start. I can see a cliffside far in front of me where I'm aiming for. I think I'll be turning to the left over that. Down climbed a few ledges, 4th class, still near the summit, but there would have been an easier path if I'd have stayed further south or stayed to the right more if you're descending. I'm getting closer to the precipice. Looks like there's a few other options lower on my left, but I'm up on the ridge and I'm looking at a cairn just to the right of the ridge, so I'm going to stay on this track for now. I'm standing up on the precipice. You can see a lot of cairns leading the way down over the north edge, and looks like the path goes down and to the right from here, or rather north and then east. I am still moving down and to my right and still finding cairns in a little faint climber's trail. This might be the 4th class chimney that I'm looking at now, which I think would be the crux of North Maroon. But won't know for sure for another minute. Actually, I take that back what I just said. This should be the top of the chimney. I'm looking up at the two pinnacles just above me. Marks the spot. At the very top, it took me a minute to find the good handholds. Turns out there's actually a really nice crack on the flat rock where my feet were. After that, it was pretty smooth. Good solid rock the whole way down. Little patch of ice at the bottom, but in mid-July I was able to easily get around it. Beneath the chimney, more loose scree slopes, but easy enough to see the path. and still looking at a cairn in front of me. Of course, a few more short scrambling bits. In most cases, there's several options available, so you can always just pick the one you're most comfortable with. I'm staring down at what I think is the edge of the higher gully. I can see a trail traversing out to the left. So just be careful not to go too far down the gully, because it actually looks like it's not that far. I'm moving down the southern side of the gully on a trail that's getting a little bit better with some real loose scree up above. But thankfully it's real easy to see the exit. Out of the upper gully, in just a few minutes walking along a hillside, I'm sitting at the entrance to the lower gully. I think I have to stay to the right to avoid some cliffs, but up until now there's been a good trail. A lot longer down this gully. Again, solid trail to follow on the south side, and I can see the exit of the gully now, just a little bit above the big cliffs beneath. Out of the gully, along the hillside, and a few switchbacks going down, but mostly just along the hillside. And from where I'm standing, I can see the climber's path heading all the way back to the main pathway. So yeah, almost finished. I think that boulder field was the last little struggle. From here, I think it's pretty smooth. I have to backtrack a little bit to pick up my tent, but other than that, it will be a short walk out of here, thankfully. A couple of clouds moving in, but I think I'll get down there dry. Anyway, that was Maroon Bell's Traverse. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful for planning your own trip. As always, I love your feedback. What did you like? What can I do differently? And of course, what other mountains would you like to see? Okay, bye.